Right, hey guys, how are we doing? Back another video from Totally Not Mark, and I didn't think I'd say this, but we're continuing with the One Piece reviews. He's gone and done part one of Egghead, so let's see what he thinks.
So if you can't believe it, it's been almost 3 years since I reviewed anything new from One Piece, and
Oh my god, so... Wow.
when I last left off, Luffy and the gang had just defeated Kaido and freed
Yo.
the world from tyranny, or wait, no, actually. Luffy turned into a cloud guy, and
The Sun God.
Shanks planted a tree or something. Okay, hold up. One Piece is crazy complicated, and I've reviewed a lot of stories over the last 3 years. So, in order to refresh my memory, I got my team to sit down and write a short list of everything I needed to remember about the One Piece story moving forward. Law, Luffy, and Kid follow the events of Wano part ways and terrifying a revolutionary conspiracy involving the Big Chair. And there was a nice...
Big chair.
Okay. Alright, I'm a One Piece expert once again, which is
All
fine
right.
because now, my friends, it is finally time to dive headfirst into Egghead.
It's always cool seeing the anime stuff as well, because I'm manga only, so, you know, I just don't see me... I think I said this a while ago when they said they were going to do the One Piece reboot thing. I might watch that, but it's nice to see the clips in this to see what the anime is like. Yeah.
気になるか
Alright, so I hope you forgive me for gushing right off the bat, but given how long it's been, I think I deserve some time to vent. The anime's OP for this section is absolutely
Oh, so we are talking anime stuff as well. Cool.
fire. With all of the characters flashing in and out of their various iconic outfits from
Yo!
across time, not only does it beautifully encapsulate each character
That was so cool.
his personal journey, but it also cleverly foreshadows the critical role past events will play in shaping the narrative of this arc. Honestly, it nearly made me teary-eyed seeing them all together again. I mean, how long has it actually been since the gang was, you know, together before us? Like, what? Wano? Hulk? Fuck me. Was it actually Punk Hazard? Was that
Yeah, because they all split up after it, didn't they? And then,
at the last time they all arrived on the shores of an island together? I didn't even really like that arc. It was one of the very few I was lukewarm on, actually. But let me say right from the get-go, this arc ain't no Punk Hazard. This arc goes hard immediately.
boom. Hey, that looks pretty cool.
Yeah, shit is fucked. But honestly, it only made me more excited. As
Hey, it looks boss.
soon as I saw all of that, I sat down and got to writing a bunch of theories. This is one of the most intense and explicit narrative escalations I've seen in the story, and it's not even the arc's climax, it's the opening note. I am so ready for this, which means it's time for me to put my theory cap on and once again talk about the tall, shadowy boy with the big chair.
The big chair.
That no one was supposed to sit on, by the way, but he did.
He did.
That's exactly what Sabo was gonna say until he was cut off, and oh boy, okay, calm down. This opening is so dense with insanity that I'm gonna be tripping over myself trying to touch on it all. Like, okay, you're telling me Sabo killed a guy, and not just any guy, Vivi's fucking dad.
He's been
I mean,
framed
Rip,
for
by
it.
the way. And now she's missing too. This is honestly such a cool idea. It might just be me, but from my vague vantage point as a One
I mean, it's kind of interesting when you find out where she is as well. It's like,
Piece fan, the Revolutionary Army has been a component in the story since the very beginning, but ultimately it's always felt more like a distant background element, probably because it has been. But with Sabo being accused of murder, it forces the Revolutionary Army into a precarious position, testing not just their resolve, but our own trust in a character we've grown to respect deeply.
Yeah.
This moment in Sabo's story and the Revolutionary Army's feels like the climax to their own respective adventure, one taking place in the background that exists in footnotes across One Piece's story that we're privy to, and one that has exploded in a grand fashion that captures even our attention as we follow Luffy. It is such a cool idea. And that's not even the touch on Lelucia being erased before I even learned how to pronounce its damn name
Yeah.
correctly. And of course, I have to mention the reshuffling of the New World Order, which honestly might have created the single most funny trio the entire series has ever seen, with Crocodile, Mihawk, and Buggy just vibing on the high seas together, I guess. I don't care what anyone says, this is cinema. But it all got me thinking. Oda's known for his world building, right? Each island has their own crazy stuff going on, but this moment forced me to stop and consider these transitionary moments more closely. In the moments leading up to the terrifying erasure of that island, Oda went out of his way to communicate that all of these people had their own conflicts raging. Issues, relationships, and loved ones all ended in an instant thanks to one man.
Yeah.
Or maybe woman. Or who knows? Maybe
We don't
it's the
know.
chair. For what it's worth, I don't believe Sabo committed this murder.
No,
but if
definitely
he
not.
didn't do it, I have to wonder why Vivi's dad was killed in the first place and by whom. I mean, thematically, this feels intentionally linked to the overarching narrative of forbidden knowledge. Characters who uncover inconvenient truths often meet untimely ends. Something we've seen repeatedly in the series, thinking of Clover in Ohara or even Corazon, reinforcing the brutal lengths the world government will go to surpass the Void Century's secrets. Did Vivi's dad know something he shouldn't? Maybe they both did.
Probably.
If I assume Sabo's innocent of this wrongdoing, then it's conceivable that one of the subjects close to the king discovered that he may have stumbled upon something important concerning the Void Century and was nipped in the bud before they needed to erase the island entirely. Or perhaps maybe even Alabasta can't be erased for reasons concerning the 20 Kingdoms thing later. Man, it's honestly just too much to consider. I mean, look, fuck it. Maybe Luffy laying down on a meadow outside and Emu standing on a meadow inside tells us something too. In the same way Luffy's the light to Blackbeard's darkness, Luffy represents liberation through Nika, all the while Emu quite literally has imprisoned the world under the tyrannical boot of the world government. This symbolic opposition feels deliberate, echoing classic storytelling conventions, two equally potent forces embodying diametrically opposed ideals. It's a compelling way for Oda to set up the larger thematic battle that may extend well beyond the physical limitations of this arc and inform the conclusion this story is marching head first towards.
Isn't it awesome that Mark just goes so analytical and into it and like, hey, here's the different comparisons by this, here's the light and the dark, here's why this character is and here's what this person represents over that. And
And checks watch. Yeah, okay, holy shit, we're this far into the review and we aren't even on the damn island yet. Oh, One Piece, how I've missed thee. If it isn't abundantly clear already, this review is going to be detailed. And whatever transpires regarding fights, I hope that by the end of this story, I will have at least some answers courtesy of Goda himself. I think the most frustrating component of One Piece's story, for me anyway, is also the main reason I love it so much. Absolutely everything in this story matters. When Oda shows us a floating ball of water swirling in the air that eventually presents us with a giant robot shark, you don't simply say to yourself, that's cool. You say, okay, Oda, how does this giant...
yeah, you do, don't you? It's like, wait a minute. who's made it? Like, what's happening? Where are we?
mechanical shark tie into the political upheaval that erased the island and the secrets of the Void Century? I sound insane, but anyone who's ever read One Piece knows that that might be the most sane sentence anyone has ever uttered. And speaking of insanity, we quickly jump into one of the most familiar tropes in One Piece that eventually catapults the crew into the main story of the arc. And that trope is the Scooby-Doo approach. Split up everyone and look for clues.
Yep.
It happens in virtually every arc once the crew got above a certain size.
Gives
And
everyone a
honestly,
moment to
while
shine,
predictable,
though.
it is welcomed. Multiple parties means multiple angles through which we can come to understand a new location and the mysteries hidden underneath. Furthermore, the mechanisms that launch the crew into their different parties are also great ways to re-establish their characters and bond us even more to them, which is super important for a certain fish guy. Once all of that inevitably goes awry, we're introduced to our fourth member in Luffy's party for this arc, and it is Jinbei. Can I just say how delighted I was with this choice? It can't be understated. On top of his utility as a very
Jinbei's
valuable
the
swimmer,
man.
Jinbei's
The
inclusion
fish
gives us
man.
the chance to see how he bounces off the larger-than-life personalities of Luffy and Bonnie. Jinbei is practical, measured, and a very steady presence. Qualities that create fantastic comedic and narrative contrast against someone as unpredictable as Luffy. Broadly speaking, Oda is just setting the table here, but so far, there isn't a knife or fork out of place. This is one of the coolest scenes I've come across in a very long time, and it immediately reminded me why I love Oda's writing style as much as I do.
I remember when this first chapter came out. Well, this chapter first came out. Sorry. The internet went crazy. They're like, oh my god, it's Dr. Vegapunk. We got to see what Dr. Vegapunk looked like. Ah! Which was kind of like, ah! But then, you know, as it goes on.
He writes his comedy explicitly and bombastically, but when it comes for those moments of seriousness, he knows exactly when to let the tension breathe and speak for itself. The crew look to be captured, right? Vegapunk is finally revealed to be a girl. Okay, that's weird. Not because it's a girl, but because I thought she'd be like way fucking older, but I digress. What's great about this scene, in addition to Vegapunk's long-awaited introduction, is how quickly and suddenly Lilith's commanding position of presumed dominance is brought to an abrupt and humiliating halt when she realizes who the fuck she's really dealing with. And the best part is, no one had to say or do anything. Shaka, the other Vegapunk, I don't know either, delivers one of the hardest lines in this series
daft
directed
Vegapunk.
towards Zoro and Robin when he says, "The strong assess and prioritize their targets." Bars! Just a quick sidebar for a second.
Zoro's so cool.
Zoro's a beast.
Yeah.
Okay, sidebar over. Before I move on from this section, though, I need to highlight...
Like, he has such cool moments. I know, skipping forward a little bit. I'll leave it. I'll give it a quick one. It's like... No, I'll wait till it comes up.
a curious line that Lilith uttered that got my storytelling ears all perked up.
なぜ生物の欲は制御できない
There it is. Did you catch it? Thematic conflict clearly articulated. This is potentially the dramatic question of the entire arc. This line isn't just about an unruly shark, it directly points to the central conflict Oda could be setting up for Egghead. But before I reveal my thoughts on that, I want to wait for another oh my goodness! Alright, I've seen enough. Egghead seems perfectly positioned to represent the theme of the future, not just in its aesthetic, but
What they got, the Seraphim? The Seraphim, that's the name.
symbolically as a turning point for the entire world. The theme is clear, a futuristic ambition locked in conflict with the natural world. The Vegapunks and Punkettes openly express frustration with limitations in their research, from failing to control their creation's primal instincts to wrestling with control of the very weather of the island itself. Even now, they're trying to circumvent some ongoing energy issue. The references to weather manipulation immediately call my mind back to Alabasta, where Crocodile brought drought upon an entire
Yes, he
kingdom,
did.
manipulating its
Wow,
weather
throwback.
for his gain. While this might seem initially disconnected, both instances could potentially hint towards the ethical boundaries crossed and dilemmas encountered when human ambition goes unchecked. Maybe. Now, as Luffy and Chopper become our guides in Egghead's strange futurescape, our first glimpse of the island is fucking insane. Like every other island in One Piece, Egghead bursts with impressive detail and meticulous world building.
Yo, look at that.
Whales soar through the skies, robots, battle dragons, and futuristic visuals dominate
I love
every
this.
frame.
This looks so cool.
A whimsical future that ironically isn't real without proper Vegapunk gear.
ふざけるな
Right away, it's clear. The future, in this case the holograms, can both fascinate and frustrate. That is until they meet Atlas. She, alongside Lilith, Shaka, and 3 other clones we haven't met yet, embody the thematic tension between technological advancement and the natural world clearer than any other element of the story. These 6 separate minds, each representing a unique facet of Vegapunk's personality, from evil to good, ideas to greed, showcase Vegapunk's relentless pursuit to defy his own natural limitations in the name of invention. But one line from Atlas in particular, I think, is important to consider.
いるかいないかはおめえらが決めろ
There are 2 compelling ways to interpret this quote. One perspective views it as a scientist's hubris, determined to reshape reality regardless of natural limitations. Alternatively, it could be viewed through the lens of a dreamer, someone determined not to let the naysayers stop her or him from realizing their dreams. It might even be both. Yet, with Vegapunk's laboratory literally floating high above the real world, one can't help but see this as a visual metaphor for the isolation genius often imposes upon itself.
I love the animation and colour and everything that's being used in this as well. Like I said, it's really nice to see what the anime looks like.
Detached from reality and even morality by lofty ambitions, not necessarily through malice, but perhaps ignorance or idealism. But maybe I'm overanalyzing things here. It's conceivable, it is One Piece. At the end of the day, she's just one of 6 clones created explicitly for efficiency, to get his ideas out. And yes, I did say his ideas, because there he is!
Yay, Vegapunk. The
Oda's
actual
design for
Vegapunk.
Dr. Vegapunk fittingly evokes several legendary scientists. His reveal shot is clearly a playful nod to the famous
Einstein.
photograph of Albert Einstein sticking out his tongue. The apple antenna thing artificially inserted onto his head pays homage to Sir Isaac Newton and
I never thought about that, yeah.
his discovery of gravity through an apple falling on his head, while Vegapunk's original head shape, resembling a light bulb, references its famous inventor, Thomas Edison. Embodying the arc's central conflict in his very design, Vegapunk is a wonderfully playful amalgamation of history's greatest scientific minds, one brimming with an infectious smile and a whimsical, upbeat nature. And yet, we're consistently reminded that all of that technological magic is underpinned by possibly the most heartbreaking reveal I've experienced through the eyes of another character, Jewelry Bonnie's backstory. What's initially alluded to as unfinished business with Vegapunk eventually unravels to highlight the horror at the heart of the story. She explains that her father was transformed into a cyborg, stripped of his humanity and reduced to nothing more than a mechanical tool by Dr. Vegapunk.
Yeah.
And here's the kicker. Her father isn't just some nameless entity. Her father is a phantom from this story's past, a shadow that's followed our heroes by the name of Kuma.
旅行するな。どこに行きたい？
Bartholomew, Teddy Bear Paws, and Cute Fuzzy Ears Bucket Hat Kuma, the imposing former warlord now reduced to a soulless puppet for the world government.
Yeah, so sad.
But while Vegapunk's clones grapple with the primal urges of their mechanical creations, Bonnie is very literally grappling with the question of whether any of her father's humanity remains at all. And to tell you the truth, when I saw this, my brain sort of short-circuited. Of course, Bonnie had to have a father, and while Bonnie hasn't exactly received pride of place in One Piece since her unveiling all those years ago, her story here isn't a subplot. It's the emotional anchor of the entire arc, beautifully highlighting the thematic tension at the core of Vegapunk's existence, the delicate balance between innovation and humanity, progress and ethics. The future Egghead promises might indeed be astonishing, but at what cost to the world he ultimately wants to help with his creations and discoveries.
Here we go. It's like he knows, doesn't he? He's like, no, can't let her find it.
Okay, I just have to make a prediction here. Bonnie's powers are incredibly specific, being able to manipulate the age of both herself and others at her will. Given that the central problem Vegapunk faces revolves around an inability to remove primal instincts from those he operates on or creates, and considering Kuma, the Bartman, is presumably heading towards Egghead right now, maybe through returning herself to the age he last saw her, she can bridge that gap to Kuma's lost humanity. Chalk it down as a prediction, but it's my bold one from here on in.
Am I getting confused here? I thought Kuma started heading on his way during CP0 approaching the island. Is that not the order in which the events happen? I thought they attack and then Kuma drops in during that and they're like, oh my god. I might be wrong.
各地で起きる加盟国の反乱で多忙を極める。しかしこれは新しい海軍の指導でもあった。
The Seraphims. These things are dangerous. Whoa.
I skimmed over these Seraphim things rather hastily a moment ago, but only because this story is insanely detailed, and I was afraid that if I didn't get all of my Vegapunk thoughts out, my head would explode like his almost did, so here we are. You see, at first I thought this whole thing was a trap, right? Lilith, Shaka, and Edison luring the Straw Hats into the confines of the lab, isolating them from the wider world because they knew they'd stand no chance against them in a direct confrontation. But what exactly could they want?
この島の動力は火だ。もし消えない炎がこの世にあれば、太陽を作れるのにと。
My immediate thought when she said this was, Sabo! It's gotta be Sabo. He's the fire guy, right? He's got fire. It can't go out. But then I paused for literally 2 seconds, and I remembered that devil fruit powers follow human physiology's limitations. So that's not it. Then we get introduced to a seraphim, or this green blood used to create replica Logia fruit users, right? And Jesus Christ, I am not smart enough to consider all the ramifications of that bag of spiders, but no matter what these revelations bring, the Vegapunks consistently circle back to limitations in their own invention's progress. For instance, they take a keen interest in Frankie's power source when he unloads on Shark, but even that doesn't seem to fully satisfy their curiosity. However, after some thought, Lilith's lament about wanting a fire that won't go out kept nagging at my brain, and then it hit me. Well, okay, two things did. Number one, maybe it's a Lunarian thing, right? King was one of those and he could control fire, right? Is that infinite? I don't know. Maybe? Probably not, but it's likely the closest thing Vegapunk has or had access to when creating these clones, which explains their white hair, tan skin, and fire on their backs. But as Vegapunk says, they still don't have the energy they require, so what are they looking for? And this is my second idea. There's only one fire really in existence that doesn't go out, and that's the sun. So far, it's clear that Seraphim juveniles are designed after the former warlords of the sea. S-Hawk resembles Mihawk, S-Snake looks like Boa Hancock, and S-Shark is clearly based on our wide boy Jinbei himself. But this warlord motif isn't their only shared characteristic. Now, maybe I'm wrong, but perplexingly, they all seem to both resemble the race of Lunarians and kinda look like they're cosplaying as Luffy's Gear 5. Now, maybe there's a connection between these two, maybe there's not, but this race can weaponize fire, and Nika is the sun god. All their eyes even have a star shape. What else is a star if not a crudely drawn sun? I might be...
I'm trying to remember what the green blood's from. Isn't it Lunarian blood? Isn't it taken from the Lunarians? I'm trying to remember. They explain while they're fighting them at one point. Ooh, I can't remember.
Grasping at straws, I admit it. With all that said, it seems crystal clear to me that whatever boundless energy Vegapunk is desperately seeking, there's a chance Luffy could be the key.
Hey, here we
The
go.
Void Century has always been one of the most tantalizing mysteries in One Piece, and this arc seems uniquely positioned to shed some light on it.
It really does. The Void Century's been mentioned for so long. It's like that and the Will of D. Like two of the biggest mysteries in... Oh, and Emu's identity, I suppose. But that's not been going as long as those two. I think, did the Void Century get mentioned before the Will of D? I'm trying to remember, what's the longest mystery that's not been solved in One Piece?
So please, One Piece, don't break my heart here. We learned from Vegapunk that 900 years ago, there existed an advanced kingdom whose technological prowess might have even rivaled modern-day Egghead. So right away, we have a present-day analog for what once existed. An ancient civilization was so powerful and ideologically threatening to the 20 kingdoms, or world government, that they erased all traces of it from history. In the section detailing Vegapunk's take on and visit to the island of Ohara following the Buster call that sealed its fate, a question popped into my noggin. Ohara and Lelucia were both erased for seemingly similar reasons. They knew too much and that knowledge needed to be contained. Yet there's a key difference. Ohara required a Navy's direct intervention via a Buster call, while Lelucia vanished instantly in blinding flashes of light from the sky, seemingly on the whims of Emu alone. Could this suggest that Emu wasn't always in possession of this catastrophic power? Assuming this, of course, is his power. Perhaps once upon a time, the world government relied heavily on the Navy's might, whereas now Emu might be wielding a monstrous devil fruit ability, maybe even one artificially developed by Vegapunk himself. Who's to say? Not me.
The books.
Giants salvaging the books that Ohara's scholars had desperately hidden underwater to survive the destruction. I honestly don't think there could possibly be a more explicit visual metaphor for determination to uncover the truth. Led by a mysterious giant wrapped in bandages, later confirmed to be Saul, that's pretty cool, they invaded and preserved Ohara's legacy, a legacy that Vegapunk eventually absorbed under the protection of Elbaf itself. This relentless determination to protect their treasure mirrors the very mechanism that makes Nika's existence so enduring and valuable. Devil fruits, according to Vegapunk, are manifestations of humanity's potential for evolution, but what if, just like his inventions, he's missing something? What if they actually embody humanity's collective will instead? In Nika's case, as long as people believe in liberation and never surrender hope, he will persist. Similarly, for Ohara, as long as the will to seek and uncover the truth exists, their knowledge can never truly be erased.
Yeah, like I thought Vegapunk said that devil fruits exist from people's will of want or whatever he said. Like, you know, people go, oh, I wish I could do this or I wish I could do that from people's wishes. I wish I could be like that. I wish I could be like that. And then, like, it manifests into becoming, like, the devil fruits.
Now, because Oda loves narrative parallels and history repeating itself and all that thematic mumbo-jumbo, I posit that given Ohara's knowledge was unknowingly preserved thanks to the dedication of scientists in their pursuit of truth, then it is also conceivable that whatever was thought to be erased forever on the island of the Lucia still very much walks among the land of the living, burning brighter than ever. This is my way of saying Sabo isn't dead, if you didn't catch that. Thematically, Vegapunk himself represents a fascinating paradox to me.
Well, he wasn't on the
Much like
island,
historical
was he?
figure of Oppenheimer, hey, look, another
was he?
scientist.
He was
He
close
is
to it.
burdened with dangerous knowledge and aware of his potential complicity in devastating outcomes. Outcomes he witnessed firsthand and mourns the loss of in this scene. His ultimate dream, creating a world where energy is abundant and accessible and free for all, is an energy that to this day still eludes him. Which brings us to the most confusing puzzle piece in all of Egghead. This giant robot or suit of armor. Vegapunk claims it's a robot from 900 years in the past and mysteriously activated again just 200 years ago to attack the Holy Land of Merijoa. But here, I'm honestly inclined to trust Luffy's instincts rather than Vegapunk's assumptions here. Which I know sounds crazy given that Vegapunk is the
Smart
knows
one,
things that
you know,
that's his whole
yeah,
bag,
yeah.
but stay with me here. What if this isn't just a robot? What if it's genuinely a giant suit of armor, perhaps once worn by a warrior of Elbaf centuries ago? Vegapunk's entire character arc may be centered on his relentless pursuit of technological advancement to the point he may have overlooked something fundamental and natural. The ancient scientists who chose to preserve this suit of armor might have done so not because of his technological capabilities, but for what it symbolized to them, a spirit or ideal that could not be replicated artificially. What if it's just a suit of armor, one worn by a gigantic hero 900 years in the past and another entirely different one 200 years ago, suggesting that while the bodies of great individuals may very well pass on, their ideals, their legacies, and
Carry
their
on.
dreams are carried on by others. I mean, come on. That's gotta be the most One Piece thing I've ever said. Come on. Like, if I get this right, that's a 360 no-scope sniper. Maybe the mysterious power Vegapunk seeks for the Void Century isn't merely a mechanical or technological breakthrough, but rather something intangible, like courage, love, or passion. Perhaps Vegapunk's failure to replicate this ancient energy stems from his over-reliance on artificial, unnatural creation, rather than embracing something more spiritual or inherently human. It's admittedly a Hail Mary prediction, but this might be the thematic key that ties Egghead's futuristic ambitions directly to the ancient past here in this scene. Whatever the case may be, Vegapunk fears that he knows too much now and that the world government is after him next. And you know what? He's right.
There they are.
The confrontation between Luffy and Lucci on Egghead Island is fascinating, not merely because it pits two powerful fighters against each other, but because of pretty much everything else. Once upon a time, the Straw Hat Pirates were nobodies, and yet now, the exceedingly powerful and mysterious and scary CP0, at the behest of the Celestial Dragons themselves, are ordered not to engage with Luffy and his crew because,
he's an emperor.
I'm paraphrasing here, they can't handle his smoke. Direct confrontation with him without explicit authorization is effectively an act of war. It's only when Lucci violently incapacitates Atlas, who had earlier shown kindness to Luffy, that his own rules of engagement instantly change.
おいこれお前がやったのか
These are small things, but these details in this scene speak volumes about Luffy's consistent and deeply human characterization on behalf of Oda. He first ensures Bonnie is safe. Next, he directs Chopper to assist Atlas, and when Chopper insists Frankie is needed, only then does Luffy turn to confront the attacker. This priority, care first, battle second, reinforces why Luffy is the fucking man. Meanwhile, with Akainu revealing that Kizaru is en route to Egghead for other reasons, suddenly Luffy's direct clash with Lucci isn't just personal, it's a spark capable of igniting a much larger conflict that we don't fully understand the scope of or implications of yet. Why was Kizaru already on his way to Egghead? Could his reinforcement turn the tide in CP0's favor? It's such a fun setup with tons to consider. Okay, I'm I'm not gonna lie, this version of Luffy is so funny, but also effortlessly cool in a weird way, which is a strange balance to strike so successfully. But damn it, they managed to make it work here. I've spoken before about how you can identify if and when a character has the it factor, right? You know, stuff like Sukuna in Shibuya, Frieza on Namek, or Goku with the Ginyus. Whenever that guy shows up, people take notice. You can see it on their opponents' faces or the expressions of their allies. You can feel the landscape of the battle start to shift. And when it comes to Luffy's Gear 5, he quite literally changes the landscape. Reality literally warping around him. Ground turning elastic, physics giving way to cartoonish spectacle.
Oh my god, that looks so good.
Holy
Whoa!
fuck! And Lucci's got a shiny new form too. Or, well, I shouldn't say shiny. It's like the antithesis to Gear 5, both in visual display as well as thematic undertone. Lucci's newly awakened form is dark, aggressive, and destructive, making the contrast stark and deliberate.
I like that they gave Lucci like a kind of like, not level playing ground, but like gave him more of a chance against Luffy, because it's always cool to see like rematches. And I remember Lucci and Luffy's first fight. Oh my god, that was so epic.
She literally fights to restrain others, serving masters who embody control and authority. All the while Luffy takes orders from no one, stands for liberation, joy, and freedom, values his Gear 5 form explicitly embodies. Yet both of these transformations seem to carry with them something potentially interesting. They seem to strip away some of their users' conscious control, replacing it with something more primal or divine perhaps. Luffy's anger vanishes entirely, replaced by carefree joy and constant laughter, aligning perfectly with the sun god Nika's persona. Conversely, Lucci becomes reckless, his awakening seemingly taking over his rational mind like an actual leopard. His rash attack on Sentomaru demonstrates that clearly. Which makes me wonder, is there more to these awakened power-ups in Gear 5 that I'm not realizing? Are these transformations to bring out these qualities innate to the user? Or are these qualities so prominently on show from the devil fruits themselves? What I like the most about this battle between Lucci and Luffy is that it isn't just one strong guy versus another strong guy. Those have their place as a set piece or spectacle, of course, but when it comes to this, the rules of engagement matter far more than the power of those doing battle. Luffy and Lucci are both incredibly strong in their own rights, but they are simply fighting to keep each other at bay, while the real struggle for victory rests in whomever seizes control over the Seraphim. With Sentomaru outranking CP0, he controls the Pacifista. However, he himself
There's a hierarchy
isn't
of
strong
control,
enough to
isn't there?
maintain that position. Injured yet stubbornly holding onto consciousness, Oda has crafted an incredible tension here. If Sentomaru falls, command passes down to the Vegapunks, which maintains Luffy's advantage, yes, but puts Vegapunk directly in CP0's crosshairs, the precise scenario they're trying to avoid. The battle thus masterfully integrates characters of varying power levels into this high-stakes chess game, with each move feeling significant. In the climax of this confrontation, Luffy faces a crucial, tension-filled choice. Does he stay to protect Sentomaru, or follow Sentomaru's wishes and retreat to the transport train? Luffy chooses the strategic retreat, but as Sentomaru collapses, Luffy's Gear 5 flames too fade away. Is there a connection? Oh, I don't know. It's exciting to think about, though. And so now the pieces of Egghead have finally been put into place. CP0 can't reach the top, but neither can the Straw Hats escape with Vegapunk, leaving us to anticipate the inevitable escalation of Admiral Kizaru as he rapidly approaches the shores of Egghead Island. The fate of Vegapunk and his secrets are very literally dangling precariously in the balance. At this point in the story, I was fairly sure that we were a healthy bit into the total runtime of the arc, and Oda had finished setting the table, so to speak, for a big standoff between CP0 and the Straw Hats with Vegapunk hanging in the balance. But then this happened. What? A random glitch out of nowhere that opens the shield and allows CP0 to just waltz in. As soon as this happened, my anxiety surged and my brain began to kind of break. But the point is, I may have gone a little bit insane, but that's a small price to pay for predicting the end of One Piece successfully. And Lord knows, do I give it a college try here. So here's the first weird thing about this part of the story. They aren't fighting. I mean, they kind of are, but the issue is that it's not at the scale to which I was anticipating. Everything sort of feels off. Furthermore, Oda's still divulging information about Vegapunk to us left, right, and center. He's invented modified cyborg animals, researched artificial devil fruits, created pacifistas, and of course, the Seraphim clones. This resume reads like a villain's rap sheet. Every single one of these things are inventions and experimentations that the Straw Hats have directly clashed with in the past, with great risk to themselves. At this point in the story, I was exceedingly suspicious of Dr. Vegapunk, but things got even crazier when this happened.
Oh, mate, this was such a interesting turnaround. But it's kind of like, the Zorro bit. I'm going to mention it because I don't think he's... So, boom, this come down. They're able to go in, and the giraffe dude goes to destroy the ship. And then Zorro's like, it was interrupting my nap, and then sword, bam. I just thought that was so cool. Zorro's just so sick. Oh, out you go.
This was the moment where my suspicions had then translated to, there is something definitely going on in this arc that I don't know about yet. The random glitch, the benching of CP0, the ulterior motivation Kizaru had for coming to the island in the first place. What is going on? I mean, Jesus, 20 years undercover. Also, she could just bite Lucci's neck. How am I supposed to predict this? Also, I haven't mentioned this yet, but ever since we discovered that this island is capable of extremely convincing holograms made interactive thanks to the clothes they are currently wearing, I started to wonder what was actually real and what wasn't. I started to consider maybe it's all a hologram. I mean, if Vegapunk can control if and when they stand or walk, then perhaps he can control what they touch too. And with his mastery of holograms, they can control what they think is real. I am certain all of this sounds like the ravings of a madman, but I wouldn't put anything past Oda. Oh, hey, look, the crew's reunited. Yippee! Where did Vegapunk go? Fuck! And that question fucked with my brain for 24 hours. So, in a matter of moments, One Piece's Egghead transformed from what I thought was going to be another great but formulaic adventure into a new island to a genuinely novel mystery. The tone of this arc had become something entirely new to the story. What was once a flurry of action and drama with CP0 and their escape had suddenly morphed into a much slower but deliberate story with a scope that suspiciously keeps expanding. During Wano, we remained within the confines of that very island, but here we are constantly cutting to things like Blackbeard. Trust me, I'll get to that next time. Kid, I'll also get to that one too. Marco, various naval personnel like Tashigi, Garp, and so on, and we also touch base multiple times with Big News Morgan.
Yep.
And these
there we go.
With this weird seagull. Look who's with her. Why? I hate this character. But my point is, all of this is pointing to a grander conspiracy.
Yeah, it really is.
In the past, I've spoken a lot on the narrative technique, dramatic irony, but what Oda's doing here is sort of the inverse of that, or suspense by omission, so to speak. We connect and touch base with all these different characters that clearly have a much fuller picture of what the hell's going on, but all we were able to glean from these moments are hints or allusions to something more, which explodes the tension. But what does this have to do with the events of Egghead? Why has the story's conflict largely been resolved before it even really began? Why are disparate groups of our main cast now spending so much time searching for one weird scientist? And what the ever-loving hell is going on with Kuma? This scene and the subsequent ones with Bonnie are deeply emotional and at times hard to make sense of. When I saw Kuma run away from his allies earlier, I thought it was in service of going to his daughter's aid. But instead, he crashes on the red line, or rather into it, the doorstep of Marijoa. So, let's try overanalyzing this bitch.
Why are you the way that you are?
Striking the symbol of the world government, this may visually underscore Kuma's internal conflict. His struggle against the oppressive powers of the world government that's far more complicated than we or Bonnie may have fully realized, and in the process, muddies my theories. How dare he? Vegapunk's compassionate demeanor towards Bonnie adds layers of moral ambiguity to his character, making him neither wholly villainous nor purely heroic. Repeatedly, Vegapunk asserts that he cannot restore Kuma to how Bonnie once knew him, highlighting themes of sacrifice, autonomy, and ethical responsibility on behalf of Vegapunk upholding a promise he made to this man he respected.
Yeah, because Kuma doesn't... He told him to take all his memories away.
Bonnie's a deceptively interesting character in this scene, but for more than the reasons I illuminated earlier. Her ability, body distortion, isn't as specific as I initially thought it was. Instead, it offers broad application with curious limitations. Temporarily, it affects living beings like we saw, but that restriction doesn't apply to non-living things. This distinction her powers draw between the living and the artificial points to the very area Vegapunk is trying to make sense of and quantify, particularly during his experimentation with Kuma. Vegapunk emphasizes that Kuma's transformation was a decision he alone made, reinforcing this tragic but mysterious decision for us to uncover alongside her. And that's sort of the structure Oda's used to inform the approach he's taken with this arc. Much the same way there's something we aren't noticing or understanding fully with regards to Egghead and the mysteries hidden within, Bonnie's story of paternal discovery is equally as mysterious while managing to be orders of magnitude more distressing and emotionally taxing. Underlying a profoundly emotional conflict, her inability to accept her father's apparent voluntary abandonment. I mean, that's heavy. Her entire life's purpose has been in search for an answer to this one question, in addition to trying to save her dad. Why was her father taken away from her? And through searching for that answer, a pattern adorned on a doorway captures her attention, much to Vegapunk's insistence that it has nothing to do with her actual father. Hidden within is a large, glowing paw print. Now, much like the scientists that have been silenced across history by the world government, Bonnie's relentless pursuit of truth leads her to nothing but misery. What she encounters is revealed not to be Kuma's pain, but rather his accumulated memories. Memories that echo in the story like a dark nightmare. What remains following the encounter is little more than a distressed daughter left with more questions than when she entered. And speaking of questions... Wait. What the fuck? Oh, shit. He's here too. This guy? What the fuck is going on? The sudden attack on Pythagoras set an ominous, if not fucked up tone for me. In addition to the seraphims that have suddenly attacked, a shadowy figure is lurking in the background, orchestrating this entire affair. When the seraphims launched their attack, it connected in my head that whatever opened the barrier did so not with the intention of letting CP0 in, but rather to reintroduce the seraphims back into the equation. Through CP0, it was established that orders given by the same rank cannot override higher orders, which means, given Shaka cannot call off these seraphims, the order had to have come from one of the 7 Vegapunks. And I, of course, can't discount the possibility that there could be more than one in cahoots with each other, making it almost impossible to predict. Honestly, because One Piece is such a long and lore-filled story too, the mere addition of mystery and misdirection amidst all these different clones had me hatching some of the most wacky predictions I'd ever concocted. The fact that Shaka was the de facto leader of the Vegapunk satellites had me suspecting him fiercely. With his face concealed and his demeanor collected at all times seemingly, I thought back to the moment Bonnie was able to escape detection from the Pacifista with Luffy by playing with their ages. This told me that whatever mechanism allowed these entities to read faces does so based on physical characteristics and little else. And given that we're talking about a show where Mr. 2 exists, and Vegapunk has been known to create new devil fruits based on old ones, I thought it could be possible that the imposter could be hiding in plain sight somewhere. And spoiler alert, they weren't. I was just crazy. I also considered the possibility of Shaka being multiple people, considering his face is concealed at all times. All one would need is the right outfit and boom, done. But again, that didn't turn out to be anything either. I was just crazy. Also in the back of my mind was the knowledge that there are only 4 of the 7 seraphims released. So that was scary. But who cares, because now Lucci is fighting with Luffy. And how cool is that, right? There are so many exciting narrative choices on display for me to consider here.
Such comedic moments as well. It's like Lucci and the other guy are like handcuffed, and then they're trying to convince Luffy to let him out, and then Zoro's like, no, don't. And he's like, you're not going to fight us, are you? It's like, well, you know, our mission is to come and like kill him. It's like, okay, what are you doing? Just the arguing with them both is just genius.
But I don't know which one to focus on. I think one aspect I keep returning to regarding the action specifically is how uniquely engaging it is this time around. Unlike other arcs which took a more traditional approach, which were still fine, Oda this time around leverages the narrative advantages of placing limitations and rules onto each encounter. The Seraphim's battle as they exist within the ranking system initially served as a means of incorporating weaker characters into the fold to create tension and variety. Later, once it was revealed that they were attacking the Straw Hats, CP0 and the Vegapunks, they became a vehicle for mystery. We understood how they were functioning, and so therefore we had something of a lead to go on. But now, the rules have seemingly changed once again. No longer are they targeting whomever they come across. Instead, they have chosen to prioritize the weakest first, because through doing so will weaken the resolve of the strong. It's a protocol that serves as a mechanism which led to CP0 and the Straw Hats fighting together in the first place. It is awesome. While this arc has offered plenty in the way of symbolism and the potential for a mirroring of what happened with O'Hara on Egghead, it's Oda's approach to the structure of his action in the story that has really captured my imagination.
There we go.
If you can't see me now, my head is in my hands. This show has defeated me. I am ashamed to say that up until this moment, Shaka had still been considered a prime suspect by me, and I had all but forgotten about Greed because what the fuck? She was turned to stone. I know that they can turn off that power at will, but still. Why did she only turn Frankie halfway to stone? Do they want his powers? Ooh, the plot thickens. Within each story ever told, there is typically something at its center, something that informs the structure and substance of the entire tale, and using it, it can also help you predict how the story could end. And that something is the central dramatic question. Similar to Humanity's Soul, without the central dramatic question driving and informing the narrative's path, something important will always be missing. The answer to this question is ultimately what Oda wants the lesson of this arc to be. And if you can figure out the question, suddenly predicting the conclusion becomes easier. But because this story took an extraordinarily unconventional path before eventually showing its hand, that question had largely evaded me until suddenly the narrative shifted into the past tense. There's an entire narration here where events are referred.
Yeah, I thought this was odd. It all of a sudden was as if someone was reporting on it as if it's already happened. I noticed that. I was just like, oh, why have we all... It's as if we've skipped into the future for someone to tell us what has been.
Ominously to the Egghead incident as something that will happen in the next 24 hours. Suddenly, and without warning, this entire arc starts to feel like someone reading a disaster report. Like they're reporting on something that has already happened. I mean, that's crazy in and of itself, but then York's chilling statement echoing in my mind with, the world only needs one Vegapunk. I mean, this highlights precisely the danger I saw with Stella and the destructive potential of unchecked individual ambition. But more so than that, it brings into focus the central dramatic question of Egghead. What does it mean to be human, and what are its consequences? There are countless incidents where these satellites of Stella are shown to be as human and as individualistic as any living, breathing person out there. They aren't a hive mind in the literal sense. They each have their own wants and desires, oftentimes disagreeing on how best to navigate any given issue. Stella's decision to out Stussy despite everyone else's thoughts on the matter reinforces that very aspect. All of them are people, but they will always be nothing more than a satellite as long as Stella is around. Or at least that's what York thinks. So given the narrative's thematic trajectory, the Egghead incident likely culminates in a disastrous outcome, but more importantly, one that sets the playing field for the final stretch of the story. With Vegapunk's hubris and unchecked ambition serving as a cautionary tale perhaps, my prediction is that he will meet something of an end in this story along with many or possibly all of his clones. And along with him, the knowledge of O'Hara and potentially the Void Century too. Or will it? Vegapunk still has a backup memory bank which could retain all the information he requires, and more than that, we have the Library of Elbaf still to consider. But how do we get there? That's the interesting part. And with the cliffhanger my team has instructed me to stop at, Lord knows I'm eager to pick this back up as soon as possible. So, thank you for watching. I'll see you next Saturday for part 2.
All right. Yes, very cool. Yeah, I like it. It'd be interesting to see what he thinks about the next bits. We got Blackbeard in, we got Shanks in, we got Kid in, we got Kobe's little thing going on. Garp! Oh, mate, Garp's moment. Yeah, we'll wait until the next one. It's awesome to see. To get back into the whole One Piece stuff again. Thanks for watching.